the time. Um, Thank you, Oyama, for putting on the recording. Really appreciate it.
Sorry,
But we're
Isabel.
so,
Sorry
so
for interrupting.
glad. Oh, and then you're gonna have to shout at me if there's any comments I miss, okay? But we are so glad to have you here. And then I wanted to just do a huge shout out to May and Anina and Olive. They're co-hosts, so they're whenever I say nonsense, they're going to interrupt me and then just mute me and tell you the right stuff. Okay, but can I ask Anina, can you go first and introduce yourself, and then Amay, and then Olive, just introduce yourself so that everybody knows who you are and what you're doing here.
I just want to see where's my camera. I don't see. Oh, there it is. There we go. I hope my camera is going on. There we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Anina Lundi. I am very excited. First of all, I'm excited to be on a platform with wonderful Dr. Isabel. And she's one of my most favorite people in the world. And I'm not saying that to flatter you, Isabel, but she is. And it's just wonderful that she is hosting or presenting this course for creative arts. I think you all know that we want creative arts footprint to increase across the province, across South Africa, and this is a wonderful tool and a wonderful way to get this going. I will be presenting the drama section of this course, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you. We can have a very dynamic time together, a very interactive time. It's going to be not dead. It's not going to be print behind glass, nothing like that. It's going to be interactive. And I'm very sure you're going to walk away and you would have learned something new. I think I must stop talking now because, yeah, it's a wonderful day. It's a beautiful rainy day to start this course in spring. Over to, I think, Olive. So everyone enjoy today's session and we look forward to seeing you in the next weeks.
Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to meet you all. I'm so happy to be here. I've actually been home for the day. I'm a little bit under the weather, but I am doing fine. I just want to say that I appreciate you all for just attending this course, and I'm looking forward to both presenting, but also learning from our teachers to hear what their best practices are, because I think it's within sharing the learning content, to sharing each other's experiences. I think that's so important within creative arts, because you really never know it all. You can't think that you know it all, because then whoops, you're in the wrong profession. You have to always have a team around you in order to lift the arts. So I just want to say that this is definitely about lifting each other up, lifting each other up in the arts, and then also just to form meaningful connections in the arts so that it lasts long after this course. And I think that's the part of the intention, Isabel, is that this becomes a platform where we have meaningful connection that lasts after the course. And I'm really hoping that we can do that. So lovely to meet you all, everybody.
Hi, everyone. I'm May, and yes, I can concur with Anina and with Olive. I think it's quite exciting to meet on a online platform. Also, to create a community where we can share things, and I'm really looking forward to working with you guys through the units. And I think, as you will know, is while you're working through it, that we will support you all the time. You're going to be WhatsApping us, and if you've got issues and any questions, we will be there to help you with everything. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I don't think they told you, but Anina, Olive, and May are, for everybody who's not in the Western Cape, familiar with their work. They're very, very closely tied to how creative art is being taught in the Western Cape. So you would get everything you would probably need to know about how to teach creative arts, all the ATPs, everything about what you need as a teacher. Please will you just ask them. They are the most incredible people to ask whenever you're doing anything. So Anina is definitely going to be working more on the drama. Olive is on the music, and Amay is on the visual arts. So yeah, reach out. Now over to you. Can you please, it would be wonderful if you could introduce yourself and tell us how your week has been. You can take the mic. We're not that many. So if a few of you want to take the mic, or if you want to use the chat, you can look in the bottom. There's like a little chat icon on your screen. You can tell us in the chat. I see Betsy. Hello, Betsy. Betsy has put her chat in. Kindly provide us with your numbers. So, Betsy, if you need to phone the office, if you need anything, Oyama will share with you all the details there. She's put her email address for you. You can contact her at any given time if you get stuck. Oyama, can you please also just put the Lemina phone number in, as well as the but Betsy, you should have also gotten an email with the link to the WhatsApp group. So if ever you get stuck, that's where you can join and you can ask and get some help. So Alexandra says, wow, such a busy week as a teacher doing all the admin before everyone goes on holiday. Flip, I know. Hey, Alexandra, I know that time of year where it's end of termitis and you get so absolutely exhausted. There is no tired like teacher end of the term tired. You just can't even think anymore. So I really remember that. I remember being on, as people are typing, please tell us where you're typing from and tell us how your week has been. And while you're typing, I'm going to tell you a story. When I was a teacher in Somerset West, we had end of term 2, and you know it's exams and it's that 4-letter word reports, and you get so exhausted. And I walked into the staff room and we'd taken all the hockey bibs, and you know they're smelly. Our principal, who's one of my very best friends, there she was spread out sleeping on top of those smelly hockey bibs. So yeah, I really get end of termitis is not fun. Carmen says, oh, it's going really fast. Okay, I will read it all, but I'm sure May and Olive and Anina is also going to read and put some comments in. Anna from Xeris Teaching Design. Oh my gosh, Anna, I was in Northwest 2 weeks ago. You should have waved at you. I do think Xeris is near. We were in Mahikeng or Mafeking, depending on which language you speak. So, and Xeris, I know, is around there. Hi, Susan from Pretoria. We're so glad to have you here. We're looking at West Riding, Table View. Yeah, Anna from Xeris, Pretoria, Gauteng. Let's see. Yeah, it's freaking amazing. And then we've obviously got a lot of people from the Western Cape as well. Carmen says she's all the way from Gauteng. Well, Carmen, we're so glad to have you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're really, really excited to have you here. What I wanted to do is just to give you a little bit of an overview before we, you've probably done Unit 1 already, but before you get too stuck into it, I wanted to just to give you an overview of what Lemina is busy with, some of the projects, because it will help you understand what this first unit is about. So we're busy building a course at the moment for NEMISA, which is like the government's communication people. And the course is about AI and coding and teaching young women to code, teaching them to use data, to analyze data, to collect data, to visualize data, and also about entrepreneurship and communication and presentation skills. So we're building all these different courses. So that's the one side that we do. But then we also have involvement at the moment with the Department of Basic Education, the DBE, who you might know. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. But so the DBE, what they're doing is they're reworking the e-education strategy. So me traveling all over the country is going to all the provinces and talking to the Northwest Province, or talking to KwaZulu-Natal, and talking to their e-learning departments, talking to their, and there's often curriculum people and teacher development in the room on how we can best develop the e-education strategy for the country. So it was written in 2004 as a draft white paper. It wasn't actually signed off. And so at the moment, this 20-year-old document needs to be revamped and redone. So I'm working with the Department of Education. They've done a lot of work on it, and we're going from province to province to province to get everyone's input. And from my research background, I was a teacher. Believe it or not, I went to Boerland College of Education in Wellington, and loved being there. Then eventually, after lots and lots of studying, I got a PhD in education technology. So I really understand education. And my story that I'm telling you today is all about what I've learned in the last 20 odd years. When I was at college, I was the only female in the stream that had math, science, and computers in. So it was, and then when you ask people questions and and they think you're an idiot because you're not a male, in the technology or in the maths class, or the science lecturer was absolutely incredible. But it is that kind of background of always like asking difficult questions. And that's what this course is about. It's saying, how can we use something that is so bits and binary to make arts, creative arts teaching a little bit more interesting to learners in our Gen Z classrooms? So that's where this Unit 1 is coming from. So one of the big goals for us, for you, is to get familiar with working on the learning management system. So if you by now not familiar, or you're still stuck, or I get it, it's end of term. If you've been exhausted and you haven't done Unit 1, guess what? You're not in trouble. Nobody's going to bomb on you. Nobody's going to shout at you. You can take the holidays and you can work through Unit 1, 2, 3. We had a teacher in the ITiArt course yesterday that was so excited. I think she's almost at Unit 3 already, because and they start at the same time you did. So for us, it's quite important that you get familiar with the LMS so that you're happy working on it. And if you have any questions, Oyama will paste the the Lehman phone number down for you. You can WhatsApp, you can ask the chat bot, you can email, you can phone, whatever it is. Just make sure that you get help so that you don't get stuck on the LMS. Then our second one is for Unit 1 was for you to explore what are the principles of technology integration. Just like art has its own principles, and if you know the principles in art, you can break them with a really good reason. And so technology education has principles as well that we don't want to break, but if we know them, we can apply them. And guess what? We make better pieces of art. And teaching is art, isn't it? So that's what this Unit 1 was about. And then also we spoke around language teaching in the art room, because you'll see the DBE is moving very, very strongly towards home language education going forward. And they're already wanting to implement a whole bunch of new ideas from next year onwards. So if we as art teachers can support home language learning, but also if we can just support the language learning in our own class, it makes it so much more effective what we're doing. Anina, Olive, or Amay, do you want to mute me and say something to that point, or are you happy for me to continue?
I'm very happy for you to continue. Just want to reiterate what you said about language. Very important that the message has gone out, that and I think it's a well-known message, that we are all language teachers. And I think in the arts, it's extremely pertinent, that is what we do. We use the arts to teach languages. So I just wanted to say, Isabel, spot on as far as that is concerned.
Perfect. I wonder where I heard that from. I've been working with Anina and her arts teams for many years. So this is a message we've been talking about many times over. And then we'll look at cool charts where it's not something that's often used, and you created games in this unit. So let's move on. If you've been a rock star teacher and you've done a little bit of Unit 1, or you've worked on the LMS, or can you tell us what you learned in Unit 1 that you really want to go and put into practice so far? And you don't have to answer this one if you haven't done it yet. If you have done Unit 1, please tell us what you've learned from it that was like one of those, like, glitter falling, what do you use this moment, and then we can see what your comments are. If you haven't done it, it's fine, we're going to talk about it some more. Just wanted to hear what anybody has done in Unit 1. And even if there's something like, oh, it was just interesting, it doesn't have to be a glitter bomb moment. Angelique, please go for it.
Hi, I finished it today amidst 2 other meetings, because if someone tells me to finish it, I finish it. So it was much more than and the information was actually good. I enjoyed doing it, and that's why I couldn't stop. So I finished it because I wanted to, not because I had to. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to go do 2 or 3 in the holiday and see if I can catch up a little bit. So thank you very much for it, and I'm very positive and motivated. Thank you.
I love to hear that. Thank you, Angelique. I see Annie saying it was great to have a refresher of pre-CK. Oh yes, all Schulman's work. Hey, we'll talk about it when we get there. The one I want to use is Wordwall. Oh, I love Wordwall, and that whack-a-mole game. Oh my word, the kids love it. Content was really interesting. Really brought me back to uni and learning the TPAC model again, as well as creating Wordwall. I am so glad to hear that you learned that. Another love for Wordwall. Let's go and see. If you're still busy typing, please go for it. If you want to raise your hand, or your Oyama will tell me, hey, someone's raised their hand. If you haven't done it, I just wanted us to talk about what was in the unit, because these meetings are not meant to be, let me go and reteach you everything that was in the unit. It was to highlight aspects, and then if there's something that you want to talk about or question, or even if you haven't done it yet, to say, oh, that's interesting, can you dig a little bit deeper into that? So that's the point of having these meetings. So, and I promise you, I didn't go and type this in while you weren't looking. I was talking too much. But like Anina says, every teacher is a language teacher. So that should be part of our thinking all the time. How do we make ourselves become the teacher that teaches language? We don't have to be the rock star English and Afrikaans and Isxhosa teacher. We just need to be aware and to teach language in a much more explicit way. So if you've done Unit 1, you would have seen these, we use Jim Cummins's work really a lot, because he's done exceptional research since I think the late 80s, early 90s, on what does it mean to have an academic language versus a conversational language. So very often, if you get learners from in grade 4, they might have had home language teaching up to that point, up to grade 3. Now they arrive in your class in grade 4, and maybe your class is an Afrikaans class, or like when I go to the Northern Cape, there's a different language class groups in grade 4 to going up. So you're hearing, I might say this wrong, Sesotho and Tswana, I think, in the different classes, although the school is English language medium. So now the art teacher has to teach Setswana, but she's Sesotho. So it becomes and it's actually an English language medium school. So it's this a constant language integration that makes teaching so exciting. And when we understand what Cummins was saying when he says we've got conversational language, which is your how's it, my brew, that language, and then we have academic language. And when we want to teach things like line or color or texture, those are language or terms that become part of academic language. You wouldn't necessarily go and use a lot of the academic language in your everyday language unless you are an academic and you want people to think that you're 1,000 times more clever than you are. So then you coin all these really, really big words that I don't understand half of them. I'm sure you don't either. So but if you're in your everyday world, you're going to have your conversational language, and your academic language is going to be the thing that we need to teach very explicitly. And then when we talk about the academic language and teaching them, if you've done this unit, please raise your hand and interrupt me. But if you haven't done this unit yet, we look at how we teach language using very explicit terms to explicitly teach the language of art. Now, I have to go and confess, we have this incredible graphic designer called Michelle, and Michelle took my really sleazy slides yesterday and jazzed them up. So I thought I could just go and use my slides from yesterday. And clearly I didn't go and change scientific language to art language. I'm so sorry. I'll fix it. But basically, what we can do is to explicitly teach the language using different strategies. One of them is to use something like word attack. So polymorphism is what you're going to have to break down in the science class. In art class, words like line and color and contour and texture, we don't have to break them down as much, but there are words that we have to break down. And then what it means is you break it down into its constituent parts. You break it down into what does it mean? What is the word's meaning? What are the pieces, like little Lego blocks that we put together? This Lego means this Lego means this, together they mean that. That's what we mean by word attack. We're also scaffold learning. So we're using a spiral curriculum. So what you're using, if you start teaching and then every year you build on that and the spiral goes higher and higher. If we don't spiral, what often happens is we get this disjointed teaching style where everything is just thrown together. It's a bit like when you see a chef making a cake. There's like everything is set out and they go in a very specific order. When I make a cake or a pudding, everything gets thrown into a mixing bowl, the whisk goes and then it must come out correctly. Whereas your really, really wonderful chefs, they're going to whisk the egg whites and then put it together. And that's what the scaffolding is about, is to say you're not just hoying everything together. Now, I almost use the wrong Afrikaans word. You're not just hoying everything together. You selectively, as a teacher, design how you build on something. And you would, in teaching, for example, the elements of art or the principles of art, you'll use different tools to scaffold the learning in a very specific way, with step by step iterations. So that's a second way of teaching the explicit language. The third way is to create more time for learners to talk. Now, as you can see, I am a born teacher. I flipping talk all the time. And that's when we want learners to develop academic language, we need to actually learn to keep quiet and give them the tools and then let them talk the tools. That's where, if you have a teaching strategy like learn, pair, explain, you can then you learn individually, then you talk to a friend in a pair, and then you go and share or explain what you've learned. So those kind of things breaks down the barrier of, oh, I'm learning to speak in this other language using the academic language. Let me practice with a friend and we giggle together and we don't embarrass each other. And if we feel confident, then we can share it with a bigger group or with a whole class. So we create those spaces where there's more space for talking. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Is it something that you normally do in the art class? No one's adding. Okay. If you want to add, just unmute and start talking and I'll listen. Okay. Um, so now when we think around language teaching, there we go. Thank you, Olive. There's the spiral curriculum. Fan-freaking-tastic. Thanks, Olive. I'll put it on you. Oh, you can't see it. Um, it's on my screen, but it's not on, you can't see it, but sorry. But if you go and look, Oliver's put the spiral curriculum in there for you and how you will teach with it. Very often you'll find children who've been taught things in a very wrong order, that they don't have the foundations. So I would imagine a child who has a really terrible pencil grip, um, if you teach them the pencil grip correctly, then you teach handwriting. That's how I would have done it, from a very natural way. Now we've got a very embodied way of learning. It's the smallest things like that. But then you take obviously your content as well. But when we think around language teaching, can you just go and tell me what are your takeaways around teaching language in the Afrikaans or the teaching language in the creative arts class? Why did I say Afrikaans? Tell me, what are your takeaways from what you learned in Unit 1 or from what you learned in this conversation? What are your takeaways around language teaching in creative arts? Remember, we're all language teachers. Please go for it, Lisa.
I think for me, one of the takeaways was that I have unconsciously included technical language into the way I teach, and that I can be a little more conscious about the inclusion of language as I teach.
Absolutely. And yesterday, one of the science teachers was saying to us how for them it was that moment of realizing to not make assumptions around language. So not to assume that learners are obviously going to know what texture means. And now I can build on that, but to break down, what do I mean by texture? Feel the texture, smell different smells that go with cardboard or metal, smooth surfaces, and break it down without making the assumptions. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to share?
Hi, Angelique again. What I've realized is with art, a lot of the kids in my class have never been exposed to any of this. So I go back to their basic language and tell them a story, the story of the colors. And there's a story about texture. There's a story about complementary colors. So I take it back to basic language and then explain this technical word with a story that is from their lives.
It is so beautiful. I can see Nina's toes are curling. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Isabel, sorry that I'm jumping in, but I absolutely love that idea, to bring in story and to make it, real for the child, because you're linking it to the child's context. And I think, when we talk about language and arts, as one of our teachers just said, she wasn't conscious of, how much language she should bring in and so on. It's often, teachers often ask, where do I find the theory, the theory that I will be using for my assessments, for my exams and so on. And it's often in the language, in speaking it and in showing the words and showing the terminology that you start to find your questions for your exams and your tests and so on, So I think it's just so important looking at the spiral and looking at your methodology, that the theory and the practical is always integrated, and in that theory comes the language. But the way that our speaker has just explained about storytelling is absolutely such a wonderful, non-threatening way of introducing learners into the language of the arts. So I'm going to steal that idea. I hope you don't mind.
I'm wondering with Angelique, there was this idea called Book Dash, where you got a group of people together, like creative arts teachers, and you would spend 8 hours and everybody would write a different story around a topic. So imagine, Anina, if we had just we could call it Arts Book Dash, where you just had hundreds of teachers across South Africa in their own language writing a story about texture or about color. Flip. I'm getting quite inspired by you, Angelique.
I think that's a brilliant idea,
In my
Isabel.
stories, you'll have to share your stories.
And also like going yesterday to, but in every province I've been, all the people are talking about they need content in their language for their children, for the context that they're in. And if it's in vendor, it needs to talk about vendor culture. And so, oh my gosh, I'm inspired. I'm going to work on that. I can already see Shari, and Shari's our operations director. I can already see Shari going, oh no, not another project. So Shari, we won't do it just yet, but we'll work with Anina and do it. Thank you for sharing your ideas around language. And now we're moving to another section, which is a very, very critical section for this whole course, is around understanding technology integration. Because in the creative arts class, we think around technology integration as something that happens in the maths class or in the language class, but very often we don't think around how we can use technology in the creative arts class to be part of what we're doing and to support the learning that's happening. As much as in this maths and science class, you have children who don't want to study maths and science. In the art class, you have children who don't want to study art. They just don't like it, which of course to us makes no sense, but for them, it really makes sense. So it could be a bridge that helps them in that space. So can you tell me how have you previously integrated technology in teaching and learning in your creative arts class? What have you done? Any way that you feel comfortable with it. Just tell us what you've done. You can take the mic, you can put the words in the chat. How have you used technology in your class? Sia Sangha, if you're using creative or if you're teaching very practical to explain the concepts, maybe you can tell us how you've used technology in the past, or maybe you don't have technology. I'm assuming that everybody can access it. Tell us what you've done. I often use songs from YouTube, the color song. There you go, Angelique. Anyone else have you used technology in any way? Have you used a projector to show a video or played music to the class? PowerPoints, thank you, Annie, and videos from YouTube. Thank you, Annie. We also use Teams and OneNote. Fabulous. There
Hello,
we've got,
I'm trying to,
yes,
hi,
Nkateko.
yes, I'm trying to find a hand to lift. I can't find it. But anyway, I've used it because we have this performance for drama when they do the poems where they need to do the choral verse. So I've used the technology, YouTube's. We go to YouTube's and then we could just listen to the other learners performing the choral verse. Then we perform it. That's how we use technology. Yes, thank you.
And that's so beautiful. Oh, you're going to have to send us some recordings of the learners because I love listening to them
Yeah,
grow and with this choral verse.
definitely. Definitely,
Please.
that one I'll send. Sure.
Oh, um, thank you for sharing. And we've got lots more YouTube who teaches vocal exercises, images of pictures, all up on the smart board, speakerphone for music to create mood or for dance. Fabulous. So what we're what we're looking at, and you'll see there was higher up, someone was saying that they learned about this in university. So Schulman in 1986 published his work, and he said, so if you imagine the pink isn't here, so he said that every teacher needs to have content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. So pedagogical content knowledge, PCK. So if you're teaching, some artists, like some mathematicians, are brilliant at what they do, but they find it so difficult to teach what they do. So they would use all sorts of techniques to try and teach what they do, but it's not necessarily always helping the learner to learn what they do. So in the creative arts class, we're very much looking at the pedagogical knowledge of how to teach different structures, different areas of creative arts, but also the content knowledge of how to improve on the knowledge about the subject. And with creative arts, the knowledge about creative arts is so vast. There's, yeah, I think if you had 10 lifetimes, you still wouldn't be able to go through it all. But now this course is bringing together the pink element here that says, if you're a teacher in the 21st century, chances are you're going to start wanting to use technology. Then you need to learn how to use technology, not for its own sake, but how to use it in teaching. So you'll see we have the technological knowledge, so how to use technology, but also we have technological pedagogical knowledge, so TPK, which fills in this space here of how do I teach my subject with technology, but also content and TK, so it's your technological content knowledge, or at the bottom, your pedagogical content knowledge. So this is called the TPAC framework, and it's almost 20 years old. So, and everybody is very excited about this. The problem with the TPAC framework is that it assumes that the better you get at the center, that you need to use technology. So while this course is about technology, it's not meant to be a techno, what's the right word? Like it's not in favor of using technology in every space. It's saying, you'll see as we go, that we use technology in different ways for different reasons, but it's just a tool at the end of the day. So if I'm looking at the SAMR model, which is another model, also developed by, it's from 2013, 2011, 2013. So Ruben Pentadura, he's from, I think from Hawaii, and he created the SAMR model by looking at how teachers use technology. So you would start off with taking what you're already doing. Like in the creative arts class, I would imagine you would show pictures that you've collected, posters. You would show the 2D picture, and instead of doing that, you would use a projector and project the picture onto the whiteboard or a white sheet or whatever. So you're basically doing the same thing. You're just changing it for to use it on with a device. You would then maybe, instead of having an art test on paper, you would move it into a Google form or a Microsoft form, and that becomes a modification slightly of what you're doing. And then as you move up with SAMR, it becomes more that you're teaching using technology in ways that you could never teach a topic before. So if you wanted learners to walk through the Louvre and to go and look at the Mona Lisa, there's technology that actually allows you to do a 3D walk through these incredible spaces. So that's what we call augmentation. But then substitution becomes when you're doing things with technology in your subject, but there's a huge change in what you're doing. So you're not just teaching what you always taught. You're completely changing and recreating with it. That's where we get to the top layer of the SAMR model. And now what we're doing with in South Africa, although SAMR was created in Hawaii and TPAC was created in America, it doesn't always talk to what we do in South Africa. So when I finished my master's and I was busy starting my PhD, I started this journey, and here comes the story. And the story is that I went from the richest private schools in Cape Town, in the heart of the mountain, or the shadow of the mountain, right through to the poorest schools where you drive and then the tar road ends and you get to the dirt road. Then the dirt road ends and then you're still not at the school. So, so it was this incredibly vast study that I was very privileged to do. And I spoke to teachers, I spoke to learners, I spoke to principals in all of these schools. This school here at the very top, it was a missionary school, and I could put my arm through the walls, the cracks in the walls, because it was so bad and such bad repair. So the principal's done incredible work to now, but that was all the range of schools that I visited. And my research problem was to say, how do teachers in these schools use technology without making assumptions that say, well, if you're in such a derelict building, then surely you can't be teaching with technology. That was the assumption I didn't want to make. So I went to all of these schools to go and see what's happening, interviewed the teachers. We had about 2,000 odd responses, etc. And I started seeing different kinds of teaching emerge, different forms of teaching, different forms of learning in South African schools, but also at the same time I was working with different universities and different teachers themselves, and I started seeing how different forms of learning emerges with adults as well, using technology. So you'll see that what then came to the surface was this area where we could see that teachers, if I show you this previous one, you would have teachers who are lecturing, like in this space or in this space, with or without technology, but they're really lecturing, they're using an instructional style. So we put them in this category, and then whether they use technology or they don't use technology, we still could group them in a certain style. When you're teaching from an instructional approach and you basically delivering knowledge, you're explaining something, you're laying the foundation for more work. The teachers, the sage on the stage type of person, and the learners are there working with them. So that was our understanding of what we were seeing in this one space. And this was across schools. It wasn't that, the schools in the shadow of Cape Town were doing it differently. Across schools, we saw this. Then the next set we started seeing was, if we had technology happening, with or without technology, if we had it happening here at the top or at the bottom without, we have this space where we started seeing, but some teachers are doing things very differently. So instead of having the learners just sit and write down their activities in a very teacher-directed space, it becomes the learners are discovering, they're asking questions to each other, they're working together, they're creating, they're analyzing, they're evaluating. And whether there's electricity in the school or not depends on where they are on this sort of space. So they would have no technology or they would have technology, and the teacher's pedagogy would determine where they are. But we called this or the teaching change frame, because what it does is it tells you where you are when you use technology and where you are when you're using pedagogies. So as a teacher, I know that sometimes there's going to be moments where I need to teach in a space where there's no technology. I'm teaching a new concept in maths or whatever, and I'm teaching in this quadrant A space. Then I might, if I have, thank goodness Eskom has been kind to us, I have power. So now I use a projector instead of the chalkboard or the whiteboard to draw on. I'm using a projector. So it's the same kind of pedagogy. I'm the person in the front and I'm leading them where they want to go. It's the kind of teaching that I need to do to match the learning. Then I have the space here where now I want learners just to go and create, to make, to talk together and to create their drama or to create music together. And they're using all sorts of non-digital tools to make the music. So now I'm teaching in quadrant B. If I go and use technologies to support that in different ways, if they're making if they're putting together a drama and they're making the drama script and whatever, they can film each other doing the different activities so that they can use that to reflect on what they've learned. Now I'm using technology in this space. And this is where I wanted to explain to you that when we started with SAMR, with TPAC, the assumption is that if you're using technologies, you're a brilliant teacher. But we cannot make that assumption because in South Africa, we don't always have Wi-Fi. We don't always have electricity. We don't always have all the gadgets that we want to use. So very often teachers are forced to teach under the line in A or B, but we can still improve the teaching by looking at the pedagogy that we're using. So that's very much where we're at. And the point of this course is for you to say, I am naturally a D teacher. So if I want to become a C teacher, I need to do this and this and this. Or to say, I'm naturally an A teacher. I don't actually like technology. If I want to get to C, I need to change my pedagogy and I need to change how I use technology. It's not just a jump to the right and jump up. It's very much I need to plan it step by step and to not get overwhelmed. So that's very much where we're at. You'll see with SAMR, it can fit into with TPAC, listen to me, it can fit into the center, but this teaching without technology and in A and B doesn't fit in there. That's why it's a dotted line. It doesn't fit in. It doesn't always work. So if you think about the teaching change frame, how can you use in your space the teaching change frame? And please take the mic if you want to chat. I would love to hear you, or you can put it into the chat and type up your ideas. How can you use the teaching change frame going forward? Was it maybe too much, too fast?
Isabel, can I
If
say
you go,
something?
please, Amay.
I think, you know, some teachers, when you talk about technology, they don't have it at their schools. So, you know, then it becomes a problem. But I've been to schools where they don't have a projector in the class, but they've got a whole a computer's room or tablets for MCO for maths. And I've been to principals where they actually realize, oh, okay, maybe we can use the computer room for arts as well. And then a lot of things is loaded videos and music and things. And what's nice about that is each learner can work at their own pace. I mean, I've seen learners actually working through a video, sketching step by step, following another artist. So maybe that's something that some of the teachers, if they've got that option at schools, they can actually go and speak to, you know, if the technology is there, they can use it for creative arts as well.
Absolutely. And you're not going to, the creative arts teacher is not going to want to use it every Tuesday for an entire term. You're probably going to use it, you know, at specific times. So if you can find a way to negotiate and say, okay, the language teacher is using it the whole term, maybe I can get 2 days in the week. It's all about negotiation, eh? It's always the end of it. But yeah, May, you're so right. And what I've also seen a lot in schools is that they'll have like Tech Tuesday, and there's specifically a school in Mitchell's Plain that's so close to my heart where they introduced Tech Tuesday, and the kids are allowed on Tech Tuesday to bring their devices from home. And it's really, really, when you arrive at the school, the little kids it's the middle of winter and they're in shorts and t-shirts because they don't have warm clothes. So you can understand it's not a very, very affluent area. And yet on Tech Tuesday, there's 10 or 15 devices in the class that the teachers can use. So I see Angelique says, I do my baseline tests on ZipGrade. I set a multiple choice test and print the answer sheet, then scan the learner's answers with the phone, a phone camera to mark instantly. Fantastic. And now, what I wanted to say to you, Angelique, if you look at that, I hope you don't mind me using that example. I want to skip through that. But if you think of that, that's in this space here. When we're using technology where we're the one in the driving seat, we tell the learners what to do, we're in quadrant D. So you're already teaching in quadrant D. Freaking fantastic. So now what you can do is try, and as you work through the course, to try and find ways that you can move maybe over to quadrant C if you're comfortable with that move. But knowing where you are helps you to say, oh, okay, I know where I am. I can either get better at what I'm doing. I can use what they give, what I learn in this course, take it up, or I can move over into the digital learning space in that space. Yes, yes. Do you know, Angelique, if you get your learners to set questions, do you know that in a lot of spaces, research has been done to say, if I get learners to set question papers, I can see how deeply they understand the content that they're covering by the type of questions they're asking. And if they only ask questions at a remember and understand level versus if they're asking much deeper questions, it tells me they understand the content deeper. So yes, 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 get them to set the questions. Carmen says, I print the pictures from YouTube, yay, and paste it on the blackboard so the learners can see, for example, the examples. Other times we ask for the televisions to show them the videos. I so remember that. There's a school near the CTLI where when they first started in about 2015, they were a brand new school. You'd go visit it and then you'd hear this like, continue. About half an hour later, and they had one whiteboard in the school and one projector. And so they would carry, so the kids would have to go and fetch the whiteboard and they'd have to go fetch the projector. So thank the Lord it wasn't the projector falling, but it was this whiteboard. Then the teacher would sort of put it on the chalkboard's edge, and for some reason they would touch it and the whole whiteboard would fall on the ground, or the kids would be carrying the whiteboard up and down the stairs. This was before they got more whiteboards. But it's that thing what Carmen's talking about. It's like you've always got to go fetch it, set it up, sort it out, but in the end it works. It's one of those things that just make the kids love what you do. So I want to just quickly move on. I don't want to be here right now, because obviously we've just spoken too much. Hey, oh yes, I don't need to go through that. Unit 2, you will see, is live on the site. If you have any questions about Unit 2, I know we've got 6 minutes left. Let me see if Oyama, are you going to share with everyone how to get into Unit 2?
No problem, Isabel. I can do that now.
Perfect.
Once you're done on your side.
Perfect. So Unit 2 is about visual arts. It's a very longish sort of unit. I think for the next iteration, we must break it up. I worked through it again today and just finished. May gave us the most incredible work on Unit 2 and on how we can improve on it, what we've put in there. So if you work through Unit 2, you'll see that at the end of Unit 2, you finish and then you go and do the quiz. You can't get into the next unit if you didn't finish the previous quiz and get 50% for it. So you've got to do the quiz after Unit 1. If you get 50%, now you'll get access to Unit 2 and you'll be able to do Unit 2. So that's where we're at for now. I want to say thank you. Thank you so much, May and Anina and everybody, and Olive for being here. Thank you, Oyama, for being in the back stage, sorting out everybody. And if you can, Oyama's just going to show you how to get into Unit 2 once you're finished with Unit 1. Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful talking to you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much, Isabel. Can you please confirm if you can see my screen on my side?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So you're logging into your LMS. So you log in using your email address and also the password that you've created. But if it's your first time logging in, you will use that default password that you provided to you, and then you'll be prompted to change that password to the one that you will remember on your side. And then I will log in. And then because I am the admin team, I have many accesses to the different courses that we have here on Limina. So I will just scroll down to the ITiSci course, sorry, ITiArt course. And then here we are. So this is your course page for ITiArt. And then on your course page, you just scroll down to your activities. These are your activities. So as Isabel has mentioned that you cannot skip when it comes to units. You have to start from the one you had here, which is the course content, and then move down to it. So to get to your unit 2, you have to start doing your unit 1 and then do your quiz. After you're done with your quiz, start with your unit 2, and then you can be able to also to complete your quiz. These are your activities that are currently open. Next week we'll open unit 3 for you, and then we'll also be discussing unit 2 for next week's check-in. So when it comes to the meeting that we are currently having today, we put the recordings. I'm just going to show you where we put the recordings for the meeting. I've been receiving queries regarding that. So if you can see, let me just go up so that you can see. So these are your activities. You'll just scroll down on your course page. As you're still continuing scrolling down, just here when it says Zoom meeting recordings, you will click here. Let me just click quickly. And then here you will find your recordings. This is the introduction video meeting that we had last week. So for the one that we're currently having today, I'm going to upload it tomorrow. And also on your side, you will receive an email that the recording has been uploaded. So you can go and revisit again if you, for example, if you cannot attend some of our meetings, we'll put them here so you can just rewatch them on your own time. I hope if there are any questions, I can take them for right now. We're only left with 2 minutes before the meeting ends. Or let me just stop sharing my screen quickly so that I can see anything on your chat. You can just put it on the chat, or you can just switch on your mic and you can speak. I'm here to help you guys. Thank you so much, Bisti. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Olive. Okay, if I can see, there are no more questions. I think we can end. Okay, let's see a question there. Yes, you can download the slides. Let me just go back up. Sorry, the questions. Many questions that are coming in. If you're not quite clear on anything because the meeting has come to an end, you can send me an email or a WhatsApp text. I'll respond to you. I promise I respond. You can even call between the working hours of 9 to 5. But if you send an email, you can send it at night. During those working hours, I'll respond. I will just type the admin quickly email address, and also I will leave the number. So if you have any questions you may have on your side, or you're struggling to log into the LMS, just let me know. I'll be able to help you. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see each other next week. Same time, same place, using the same link. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, everyone. See you all next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Have a lovely week.
Thank you, Isabel, so much. Thank you, May, Alina, everyone still online. Bye-bye.
Bye, Anita. Thank you.